Hey, friends. First of all, let me apologize. My goodness, I really thought I covered all my classes in terms of communicating that. I'll worry about that later. Communicating that I would be out this week, just staying home with Janice, helping her to adjust to her post surgery time. And the surgery went really well. Repair on her rotator cuff on her left shoulder. She's now had both knees replaced and surgeries on both soldiers. Both soldiers' shoulders. That would be 4 shoulders. So on her 2 shoulders, I don't know about the soldiers. Some of the soldiers' shoulders undoubtedly also have been repaired. Maybe some by what is that word called? Solder? Do you solder something? Soldering? Would they solder soldier shoulders? Is that even the right word? We're gonna solder. Okay. That's the first minute and a half. All right, let's jump right into chapter 6 with Brother Timothy Gaines, who hasn't replied to me yet on my, biting critique. But he will, I'm sure. Starting on page 77, Isaiah on being undone. Some nice reflection on truly a classic passage in the Bible. As a matter of fact, it was one of the lectionary readings for churches around the world this past Sunday. Some of you may know about lectionaries, maybe some of you don't. It's essentially a reading schedule. You could Google the word. In fact, if you want to put in Vanderbilt, Vanderbilt, Vanderbilt Library Lectionary, this is a school in Nashville that sort of does a really good job of keeping the lectionary readings up to date, and you can see what's coming. The lectionary is a scheduled set of readings from the Bible. It would include a psalm, an Old Testament reading, a New Testament reading, and then also a gospel reading. So typically not all churches follow the lectionary, but if you do, I think you pretty much cover the whole Bible. I think it's in 3 years. I didn't grow up here being in a lectionary church, and I didn't hear about lectionary preaching, I don't think, even in seminary. Oh, and still today, not that many Nazarene ministers would follow the lectionary. They certainly can. I do know that the new pastor at San Diego First Church, a friend of mine, James Kinsler, he follows the lectionary schedule. Obviously, a person can decide not to do it for any given amount of time, but it's a good discipline. It keeps you on your toes as far as preaching things that maybe you wouldn't normally address. Keeps you away from just doing your pet passages and pet messages over and over. So it's good for that. It's good also, I think, because the Roman Catholic Church, the Episcopal Church, the Anglican Church, probably most, if not all, Lutheran churches, Presbyterian churches, Methodist, many United Methodist. That'd be the main ones. Tend to follow the lectionary. I'm pastoring a little United Methodist church out there in the desert that meets at 4 p.m. on Sunday afternoons. And I'm pretty much following the lectionary. So all that to say, last Sunday, the Old Testament reading was Isaiah 6, this fantastic account of Isaiah in the temple. Right off the bat, I'm going to pick on him a little bit, but just because I'm training you to be theologians, right? So on page 77, at the end of the very opening paragraph, which, overall is really good, but maybe Isaiah's passion for his people. Timothy, I didn't notice that Timothy Gaines just did an alliteration. And he and I used to play with alliterations a lot, some really funny ones. But here's definitely one. Isaiah's passion for his people flows through his prophetic proclamations. I should write him and say, I caught that. But at the end of that paragraph, he says, sort of like he imagines, well, it says, we are who we are because of who our God is. You can imagine Isaiah saying, his voice brimming with zeal. We are who we are because of who our God is. Then he says in the very next paragraph, first line, his message was not one about some theological theory. We're going to stop right there. Now that's a weird way to start a paragraph that immediately follows where he has said, we can imagine Isaiah saying, we are who we are because of who our God is. My friends, that is a theological theory. Yes, Isaiah didn't ever actually say that, but my friend, colleague, and former student, Timothy Gaines, encourages us to imagine Isaiah preaching that. And that's a theological theory, that we are who we are because of who our God is. You know, if it sounds like I'm being, picky, good stuff, though. I think his theological reflections on Isaiah 6 really, on the whole, are quite good. So I encourage you to be sure to read this carefully. This is good introductory stuff for y'all. It really is. He's trying to teach, again, what we call theological method. I think he's doing that pretty well here. I will say I like this point on the bottom of 85 at the end of the last full paragraph. Isaiah is not interested in timeless theological proclamations. Well, are there any such thing as timeless theological proclamations? As much as he is prepared to say something about the way the everlasting God will act in this situation among these people. And then he follows up, Isaiah is no generic theologian then. How could anyone be? And so, why could one not really be a generic theologian? Because we're human beings. And we're human beings located or situated, love that verb, situated in a particular time, a particular history, particular religious tradition or church. Hopefully, we have a particular one that we're a part of. And so all theology is situated. By the way, so is biblical teaching. By this I mean, and he says here, Isaiah is not interested in, what he says, he's not interested in timeless theological proclamations. I'm going to say that often you'll hear people talking about, or I don't know often, but occasionally, by the way, diet ginger ale. It is so refreshing and guilt-free. Right. So you hear occasionally people talk about the timeless truths of the Bible. Timeless? Not so. Not so. The Bible is very timeful. The Bible is not about abstract theological propositions that are true eternally. Well, I mean, we could say God is love. Okay. Is it timeless, though? Here's why I would say, even as much as I love the statement that God is love, we can say this is found in 1 John, written at the end of the first century or early in the second. We have some ideas about the religious community / communities from which this letter arose. We know what kind of theological issues this community was wrestling with, and suddenly it doesn't sound so timeless. And then especially the same letter that says God is love chapter 3, verse 16 says, "This is how we know what love is." Okay? And the love that God is, agape, this is how we know what that love is. Here's how we know it. Jesus Christ laid down his life for us. Aha. Timeful, historical, not an abstract statement at all. The love that God is, we know, and it has been revealed to us in the laying down of his life for our sakes. And then John continues, and we ought to lay down our lives for one another. Now we could say, oh, that's a timeless truth. We ought to lay down our lives for one another. Why call it timeless? What is gained by that? I know I'm kind of ranting here. We're timeful creatures. We occupy a certain space and time. We're all situated. So really all theology, theology is done by humans. Theology is not divine revelation. Remember, this is where I sort of pushed back on, I thought Gaines's too easily associated ideas between being a theologian and the prophet Jeremiah, and God knowing the prophet from the mother's womb. I feel like he does a better job here with Isaiah. But anyway, this is an important thing for Christian theology. We don't deal in timelessness. We deal with real people like you and me in real time, real place, with a specific proclamation rooted in the historical person, words and works of Jesus of Nazareth. Yeah. At the middle of 88, right before the break, he says, this is not Isaiah's own truth, but God's true word. Definitely anything we say is not our own truth, but we all also have to be careful when we're doing theology of saying that it's God's true word. We trust that it's a testimony to God's true word, but again, I'm going to say we're not prophets like Isaiah and Jeremiah. This is not Isaiah's own truth, but God's true word, which rings truly for the sake of this people in this situation. So that, again, very situated character of really Christian preaching and theology. Were it anything else, Isaiah would risk presenting to the people some kind of lofty ideas or his own experience as nothing more than an idol. I think that's really, I love his illustrations regarding Dietrich Bonhoeffer. I suspect you've all heard of Bonhoeffer before. Do I have this here? Maybe not yet. I'm kind of in the process of moving my library from school to home, slowly. But can I tell you this as I end this one on this particular chapter? If you look at footnotes 3 and 4, where Gaines is talking about Bonhoeffer, he quotes from a biography of Dietrich Bonhoeffer by a man named Eberhard Bethge. And Bethge was a very good friend of Bonhoeffer's. They might have been related through marriage, but Bonhoeffer's letters and papers from prison were very, very popular. I'd say in the 1960s. They're still, of course, purchased and read, and they're great. Most, if not all of them, are addressed to Eberhard Bethge, the guy that wrote this theological or this biography. I'm saying all this to say, in 1988, my friends, I was privileged to meet Eberhard Bethge. He was still alive. Of course, Bonhoeffer was hanged in a Nazi prison camp in 1944, I think it was. 44 or 45. It was near the end of the war. Probably 45 then. And I was at a conference on the Holocaust at Oxford University, August of 1988. And Eberhard Bethge was there as a speaker, and I got to sit down with him. I actually have a picture me with Eberhard Bethke, who was a close friend of Dietrich Bonhoeffer's. 1 degree of separation, my friends. 1 degree of separation. Isn't that crazy? So that's a pretty sweet thing to me, because Dietrich Bonhoeffer, wow, what a martyr and saint of the 20th century. Okay, that's a long one. I'll stop there.